Hello there.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is a great character, and Ewan McGregor plays him perfectly. But the show is only alright. So first, I'm just going to talk about my problems with the show, and then at the end we'll talk about what I think the show did well, and why the show really should have been condensed into a movie. So first, I think it's kind of strange to start a show titled Obi-Wan Kenobi with a scene that is a flashback to Order 66 that is meant to be a hint as to Reva's past. It has no connection at all to the character of Kenobi. And throughout the first 4 episodes, there's only a couple of minutes in total that we see Obi-Wan reflecting on his past, which is what he's supposed to be overcoming in this show. We don't focus on it at all, really, besides 3 to 4 scenes at the most in these first couple of episodes. We only get that in 5 and 6, and I feel like that's a problem because we're supposed to be building up emotion. We're supposed to be building up this tension of Obi-Wan recovering from the trauma and PTSD that he suffered from what happened. And we only get 4 to 5 minutes in total of flashbacks or him thinking about it, and the rest is just filler to me. Or him trying to save Leia, or stuff with Reva going on. The first 4 episodes kind of fall flat for me, and it's only 5 and 6 that really make the show decent rather than just not good at all. I will say though that the flashback scene that we do get in episode 5 is very, very well done. It's very good. My only wish, and this is just personal preference, is that the scene was just one scene and not split up into multiple parts throughout the episode. I just like flashbacks better when they're at the start of the episode and it's just one scene in total and you don't sprinkle it in throughout the entire episode. That's just my preference, but I still like it how it is right now. And Reva is a character that I think could have been done so much better. For the first 4 episodes of the show, the only side we see to her really is her being upset or very angry that someone's not doing what she wants, because if they do what she wants, then she can kill Obi-Wan. And I feel like that's not a character trait, that is just a bad character. It's just a cardboard cutout of a villain that has no emotion to it, no weight, no reason. She just wants to kill Kenobi. We don't really know why, and that's pretty much her character through the first 4 episodes. Now she does get a lot better, especially in episodes 5 and 6, but by that point it's just too late. And there's a scene in episode 4 where she is interrogating Leia in their compound, and not even Leia is scared of this person. She's not scared of Reva at all, and she's a 10-year-old kid, and I get that, like, it's supposed to be more so showing Leia's mental strength and her not being afraid of anything, but she's still a 10-year-old kid. I mean, kids have fear, right? And I feel like if we're supposed to believe that Reva is scary, why not make at least a kid scared of her? To me, that's just a bad job of trying to make the sort of secondary villain of the show an actual good villain. But again, once we get the backstory that connects to the very first scene of the show, and we learn more about Reva, which we already kind of figured was her backstory, she does become a lot better of a character. But as I said, it's too late at that point to make up for what little they did with her in the start of the show. Then we have Leia, who I think is another character that was done poorly, and this is because of a scene that happens in episode 1, actually 2 scenes from the first episode, and because she kind of overstays her welcome for me. I feel like after episode 2 or the start of the 3rd episode, we don't need her in the show anymore because it gets so repetitive. She gets kidnapped in episodes 1 and 3, and then Obi-Wan saves her in 2 and 4. It's just the same plot line happening twice because we have to fill in time and just make it 6 episodes because that's what they want, because I guess they get more money. I don't really know. But Leia, after the 2nd episode, could have just gone back to Alderaan and then we can move on with the show. But instead, she's here, and the character is cute in a lot of points, and she's fine. But then there are some where I really am like, okay, what are we doing with her? And the first scene of this is when she's talking to her cousin, and I'm just gonna read you what she says. You're scared of him, your father. You want him to like you, so you repeat what he says even though you don't really know what it means. You think being like him will make people frightened of you, but really, you're the one who's scared. You've never made one decision for yourself in your entire life, and you never will. I may not have seen much, cousin, but I can see that. This is something that a 10-year-old kid told her cousin. That is just straight up bad writing, and even if this was an adult talking to another adult, this is still bad writing, just in general. Nobody talks like this, and it makes it even worse when it's a 10-year-old kid breaking down her cousin's like mental psyche. I don't know. To me, it's their way of trying to show that like, oh yeah, Leia is like super smart despite being so young, and she's going to be a great politician as we see later on in Star Wars. But there are better ways of making her seem smart, like, I don't know, using her droid, which I think she does once this entire show. And they just did not do the character of Leia justice, and they overuse her. She should not have been in the show for as long as she was. Not to mention the insanely goofy and silly chase scene that happens towards the back half of the 1st episode. It felt so out of place that I literally, while watching, laughed out loud, and I thought to myself, this has to be a joke. Same kind of thing happens in episode 2 when Obi-Wan Kenobi is kind of like chasing her because she's like running away, and he's like not even trying to catch up to her. He's like briskly jogging, and she's like waddling around like under stuff like a penguin. I think both of those scenes were just so poorly done. I'm glad she was in the show. That's fine. That's cool. But it could have just been done so much better, and she should have had less time in the show. One more thing about the show is that there are 3 separate times when there is a fight going on and a character wins, and then they just leave the other person alive. And this is because the show has no other choice, especially with 2 of these fights, both of which are between Vader and Obi-Wan. Because both characters after the show, of course, have to be alive, so when they fight, they leave each other alive. When both characters in each of the fights clearly have a point where they have essentially killed the other character, they just have to finish him off, and they choose not to. They just leave them there. And it just feels wrong, because what is the point of leaving them alive? I really don't get it. Vader clearly comes to this place in episode 3 to kill Obi-Wan. He even tries to torture him with fire, and then he just walks away. He just leaves him there. And I'm just like, what? There had to have been a better way to explain why Obi-Wan survives episode 3 and why Vader survives episode 6. There just has to be a better way. And then in episode 5, the same thing happens to Reva, and this one I really can't wrap my head around. The only thing that I can possibly explain as to why this happens is that they had to have extra time for episode 6 because they had to extend it beyond like half an hour long. So they had to have Reva in the episode just because they had to have time for a 6th episode. Because Vader completely toys with her and then leaves her alive. And there's no point. There really is no point. That would have been a really good death for Reva, I think. Would have been a fantastic death. We see Vader's power. Reva kind of redeems herself in a way, but no. But overall, as I said, episode 5 was very, very good, much better than the first 4 episodes. And episode 6 was fantastic only because of the Vader and Obi-Wan fight, which was a fantastic fight. I think it was very well choreographed, very well done, and I thought that especially the scene at the end of the fight when they're talking to each other is almost perfect. the voice of Anakin mixing with the voice of Vader, while the blue and red lights kind of switch places on his face while he's talking. It was just so well done, and Obi-Wan saying goodbye, Darth, was a really nice touch, but then he leaves him alive. But moving on, I feel like the whole Reva trying to kill Luke plot of the last episode really feels so useless, because we know that Luke, Owen, and Beru all survive, and they're the only characters at risk in this entire plot of this episode. We know that Reva's not going to kill Luke or even hurt him, and Reva should not have been a part of this episode. I thought the end of the episode was very good, with Qui-Gon finally showing up and saying, yeah, like, I've been waiting for you, bro, let's go. I thought that was nice. And overall, the last 2 episodes really elevate the show to not bad, but not good. It's just all right. They should have just made a movie focused on Vader and Obi-Wan themselves, add more emotion to each side, add some flashbacks between each of those first 3 movies, and then you just have a really good movie on your hands with a lot of the stuff that can be taken from this TV show, but you scrap the whole Leia and Luke kidnapping/killing plots, you scrap the Reva plot line. You can have Inquisitors, I guess, but we don't have to focus on them at all. So in short, I'd rather have a movie instead of a show, a lot less filler, a lot more emotional substance about Kenobi and Vader and their relationship now versus back then, and it would have been a lot better. So those are my thoughts. Share yours in the comments, like, subscribe. My next 2 videos will be about Stranger Things and Better Call Saul, so look forward to those, and until then, take care.